I have always wanted to be the first person to walk from the northernmost point of the United States, located at Point Barrow, Alaska, to the southernmost point of our great nation in Key West, Florida. Finally, in 2006, I got my opportunity. I walked 400 miles down the Dalton Road from Dead Horse, Alaska to Fairbanks. The next summer, I walked the Alaska Highway to the border with Canada, and in successive summers walked across the Yukon and through British Columbia. I then wobbled across the far west, from Washington, over the Rocky Mountains, all the way to Wyoming. Then I trotted through the Midwest, including Nebraska and Missouri. In the meantime, I returned to Alaska to tackle Point Barrow. I walked across the frozen Arctic Ocean, where temperatures were 60 below zero. Undaunted, in 2013, when it was a little warmer, I walked 730 miles up the Florida Historic Trail, from the Everglades all the way to Tallahassee. Then I entered Dixie, walking across the great states of Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, and Arkansas. I had to return to Alaska twice more before I finally conquered the tundra and the polar bears. Am I tired? Well, of course. There are no roads leading into Point Barrow, so I started my journey in Dead Horse, Alaska. I followed the Alaska Pipeline for 400 miles along the Dalton Road, ending in Livengood, just north of Fairbanks. The next summer, I continued my walking adventure following the Alaska Highway, all the way to the border with Canada. In May of 2008, I saw an opportunity to complete a Florida portion of my route and entered the Keys 100-mile race, which started in Homestead and headed to Key West. Sadly, I only completed 68 miles, but another portion of my route was now complete. That summer, I entered the Yukon and, often greeted by First Nation Aboriginal people, walked all the way to British Columbia. I arrived in Point Barrow, Alaska in the winter of 2009. Wind chills were at 60 degrees below zero, and the wind gusted up to 40 miles an hour. Nevertheless, I made my way with a guide across 42 miles of the frozen Arctic Ocean, but had to return when the guide's vehicle broke down. When the summer weather returned in 2010, I walked 900 daunting miles through British Columbia. I was tired, and the bears were plentiful. It was motivating to arrive in the United States again and have the opportunity to walk across the far west states of Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. The summer of 2012 was brutally hot as I made my way across the breadbasket of the United States. But there I was in Nebraska as temperatures reached 108 degrees. Avoiding the harsh weather in the Midwest in the winter of 2012, I decided to walk the Dixie part of my route through the enchanting states of Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. I flew out of Fairbanks, Alaska in the fall of 2013 in a small three-seater bush plane. Unfortunately, bad weather prevented us from arriving at the Arctic Ocean, and I ended up walking through the challenging Anaktuvuk Pass. I followed the Lewis and Clark Trail across Missouri and passed through Columbia, where the press greeted me as a returning hero. In the winter of 2013, I decided to walk the challenging Florida Historic Trail and finally made it in several segments, all the way from the Everglades to Tallahassee, Florida. Now, who would have ever thought that the great state of Arkansas would have been the last state I had to walk across to complete my walk through the lower 48, all the way from Alaska? Wow. Here I come. I can feel the exhilarating feeling. Key West is just around the corner. It's been 6,500 miles. The end is finally here.